Hi again, year 10. So here's just another quick little video to help you with Friday's task to do with Macbeth in Act 1. So here we've got a quote from Act 1 Scene 4. So Act 1 Scene 4 is where King Duncan is thanking Macbeth and Banquo for their actions in defeating the enemy armies. It's at this point as well that Duncan announces that Malcolm is heir to the throne. Which, for those of you who've done your work on the Great Chain of Being and the Divine Right of Kings will know that that was always the case. Malcolm is the firstborn, so Malcolm is the heir to the throne. That there's no other natural heir unless something happens to Malcolm, in which case then it would become Donalbain. And so this is quite a key scene because this is where we see Macbeth begin to consider murdering Duncan to make the prophecy come true. So he's already been told that he'll be Thane of Cawdor. So the first prophecy of the witches has come true. So now this is where Macbeth himself begins to consider his options. Now remember, that's important. There's no Lady Macbeth here. So this is his own kind of, he's aware of what he's doing at this point on his own. So this quote, "Stars hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires, the eye wink at the hand," is from towards the end of the scene, and it's interesting because I've missed it out there, but it's actually an aside. Okay, so that stage direction of aside is interesting because he's speaking to himself. He's hiding his speech, his dialogue from King Duncan, I'll just put. So there's again a sense of deception there. So we saw that yesterday in sorry, not yesterday. We saw that in some of the earlier quotes from Act 1, Scene 3. So we get this sense of deception and appearances kind of being deceptive. And so the use of the aside, just get that highlighted, there we go, kind of sums up this entire quote. So let's have a look at the quote. Okay, so what is this quote saying? "Stars hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires." And then we'll look at the second part later, the eye wink at the hand. So this is basically Macbeth wanting his secret yearning for the throne to be hidden. Okay, so I'm not very good at spelling today. So he is very much aware at this point that what he's doing is wrong. He's going against God. And he would be breaking the chain of being, bringing a sense of disorder to Scotland and Earth. Okay, so this part here is saying, I want my black and deep desires to be hidden. Okay, he wants darkness to cover him. So we've got the personification of the desires here. He's personifying them, and look at the two adjectives, black and deep. Think about connotations of those words. So he's seeking darkness. That's interesting. Later on, we'll think about the murder of Duncan, and also the other murders. Particularly the murder of Duncan happens at night time. We see a lot of other references as well to darkness, particularly from Lady Macbeth. She says, you know, come thick night and pall thee in the dun of smoke of hell. So there's a real kind of, I suppose, introduction of light versus dark. And we can start to think about that as kind of good versus evil. So think about as well this idea of stars, okay? What we normally associate with stars, connotations and associations of stars. Here, he's seeking the stars. He's kind of speaking directly to the stars. He's directly commanding the stars to hide his own desires, okay? And that's interesting in a couple of ways. So just earlier on line 42, King Duncan references the stars and he says, signs of nobleness like stars. So he links stars to nobleness just 10 lines earlier, okay? Whereas here, Macbeth is wanting the stars to protect him from his deeds. The other kind of interesting thing about stars is astrology was quite significant in the Elizabethan kind of era, just before King James took over. So they would use the stars for an understanding of their world and also taking course of action. Okay, so they were an important part of, I suppose, life. So understanding the world and taking a course of action. And that belief in destiny and fate was quite strong. Now, just to go back to my earlier point, Macbeth knows that he's not the rightful king. He's not been born into that role, but he's beginning to believe that it is now his fate, his destiny, based on what the witches have said. Remember, Lady Macbeth, we've not even been introduced to Lady Macbeth yet. It's the next scene when we first start to see Lady Macbeth. I just want to finish off by talking about this last bit here, which is often missed out from this quote. When you see these quotes, this quote, "Stars hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires." This part here is quite interesting. It's basically asking for his eyes to be temporarily blinded in order to hide what his hands will do, what actions he will take. And again, this further exemplifies Macbeth understands he is morally going against God. He is sinning. Which links, if we think to Scrooge, think about the character of Scrooge and start to think of similarities between these two characters. Yeah, and that's it. Thanks.